Hey friend, welcome to Healthy with Heather Brown. If you don't know where to start with balancing being healthy and loving the life you already have, I got you, friend. And yes, of course, we're still going to enjoy some Chick-fil-A. I'm here to come alongside you and encourage you to fall more in love with your creator, your spouse, your kids, and your own health journey. We'll talk about how to let your good things grow until they become daily habits, with the occasional dad joke and point of view from my Yankee hubby, Eric. Don't stress. Let's hop on this Hot Mess Express together. So join me, Heather Brown, as we unpack what it looks like to live a life well loved. Welcome back to Healthy with Heather Brown. This is a first for the podcast, and it's actually based on a listener request after the last season. So thank you guys so much for keeping your suggestions coming. They mean the world to me. And you guys suggested a roundtable style episode featuring several moms in different seasons of motherhood. In fact, one of the people that requested it didn't know she was going to have to be on the show to do my request. And you guys will meet her next. But I wasn't sure how the logistics would work out for an episode like this, but here we are. We figured it out. So I'm so thrilled to be able to make that happen. I asked 3 of my very best friends in different friend circles and in different friend groups and different ages and stages of life to come and join me on the podcast today, just to talk about mental health, what it looks like in their version of motherhood and in their personal journey. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves and say how many kids they have, what ages they are, how we're connected, and maybe just a little bit about who they are in general. So I'll kick it off with Kati. Kati, do you mind introducing yourself first?
Absolutely. I'm Kati Maddox. I'm 38 years old. I've got 2 boys, Jet, he's 10, and then Shep is 6. Jet is my singer, my comedian, my farmer, my old soul, so handsome like his daddy. And Shep is my just sports-loving, smiley, infectious, joyful child. And let's see, I am a recruiter. I work part-time and I'm fully remote. And I'm just really excited to be here today.
We're so excited to have you, Kati. And Kati used to take Pure Barre from me. So I met her many moons ago and we've reconnected recently. And so I'm so excited to have you on today. And then Lindsay, will you introduce yourself next?
Yes, Lindsay Neves. I am a stay-at-home mom that never stays at home.
So true.
I am a parent of 2 teenagers, so I accept all prayers you want to give. I have a 17-year-old Landon, got his first speeding ticket today. Woo.
Oh, no. Landon.
And I have a daughter, Shiloh, who is 14, and she finds out if she made the school soccer team today. So we're thinking about that today. I work at the gym, which keeps me accountable for going to the gym. And I also keep Heather's boys, and I have since she was pregnant with Finn.
That's right. And Lindsay is also one of my dearest friends, and I met her through Elise, who I'll have introduce herself next.
Hey everyone, I'm Elise Heyer, and I am a mom of 1. I work full-time as a director of acquisitions at a pretty large company in Birmingham, Alabama. Noah is now 16. He's a junior and looking at colleges and all of that fun stuff. We are probably days away from a speeding ticket as well, but working hard on good driving behaviors.
Although Noah did almost hit me not too long ago in the Target parking lot while he was with Elise in the car.
Y'all, like Lindsay said, we welcome all of the thoughts you can send our way because teens are a whole different set of fun obstacles. But yeah, I married my best friend who I knew in college and knew me through some really challenging times too. But I spent the first 5 years of Noah's life as a single mom. So definitely some fun perspectives there. And then I met Heather and Eric when she moved in the neighborhood. She was really pregnant with Layton. And I knew immediately that we were going to be best friends because they were moving in. She was so pregnant that she needed to just sit down. She was probably really close to delivering, but she invited the entire neighborhood over and said, hey, please come by and meet us. We'll have a cooler with some kids' beverages, some adult beverages. Please come meet us. And I was like, okay, I need her in my life.
And the rest is history. And we love Elise and Matt. And now we're in supper club with Lindsay and Elise and both their husbands. And like the rest is history, like I said. So I'm going to kick it off with a fun question. Each of you, I'll pose it to you. And Elise, I might start with you since you just introduced yourself last. What were your preconceived notions about motherhood? And was that different from reality? And if so, like how so? Expound on that a little bit.
So I mentioned first 5 years as a single mom. And so I think my story is probably really different. It wasn't planned. I was a senior in college and I graduated May 13th and I had Noah May 16th. So you can imagine I was a whale in the cap and gown pictures.
Oh, I don't even think I knew that. That's incredible. Dang.
Preconceived was probably very idealistic. And I thought I would be married and that I would not be doing it alone and that it would be this beautiful, everything would be just so amazing. And while Noah is the single best thing to ever happen to me, it was not beautiful and amazing. In reality, for me, it was that I took a job right after that in another state. I didn't know a single human, didn't have a single family member, and was a single mom, right? Like it was just me and this infant and a full-time job in a state where I had no support system. So real life motherhood was him screaming, crying in the backseat on the whole ride home and me being exhausted and ended up with some serious postpartum and figuring out what I was made of, right? Like it was very, very different. Don't get me wrong. I think everyone on here knows how much I love being a mom. It's my favorite thing ever, but it was a little different than I thought it would be.
Absolutely. And I am going to ask you this later. I'll move on to the next person, but I do want you to be thinking about it because we are going to be talking a lot about mental health and PPD. And you know that I struggle with that as well. I would love for you to share a little bit about what you feel like God taught you through that journey. Because I know you and I have talked about that in other conversations. And I would love for the listeners to hear how you feel like God actually redeemed that story. And like, I just love hearing your take on it. So anyway, we'll come back to Elise for that next. I'm like, don't forget the question, Elise is coming. And then Kati, if you will go next and tell us maybe what you expected about motherhood and how it's different.
So I always thought I would be a stay-at-home mom all of my life. And then after graduating, I landed my dream job and I've been working for the same company for 16 years. And funny how the Lord will put different things in your life, like unexpected problems with your pregnancy. I was put in the hospital at 23 weeks with PPROM, which is premature rupture of the membrane. And so when Shep came, luckily we were able to stay in the hospital until 30 weeks and 3 days when he came. Definitely was not expected with birth plan.
No, birth plans are a joke to me. I'm like, oh yeah, that's cute. That we think we can control that.
Especially since my first pregnancy was picture perfect, like textbook perfect. And then my second one was like, boom. Like, okay, Lord, this is all you. Like really during that time, he gave me just this undescribable peace to get through that. And, you know, looking back at that story, you know, Shep spent a month in the NICU. So NICU life, I learned all about that. Had never thought, you know, about what that would look like and thought I would ever be in that situation. And then 8 months later, he was diagnosed with cerebral palsy. So he has mild cerebral palsy. 3 years, he had a spinal surgery. So all these different things that the Lord has put in our lives that have made us stronger and really have to cling to him. And so I'm very thankful. And I look back at everything and I'm just like, wow, like if I didn't have my job, I wouldn't have the benefits that set up to be able to pay for all the things that he needs. And so it's just, I'm very, very thankful.
Yes, for sure. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And we'll talk more about those details as well later. And then Lindsay, your turn. I'll let you share a little bit about what your expectations were of motherhood and what it has looked like for you.
Okay. So I got married fairly young and I was 20 and I wanted to have kids right away. Wanted to have 4. My husband said, heck no. And so he met me in the middle. We have 2. Like I said, I always thought that I would have like the kids that were the most well-behaved. They were the perfect kids. Like when you go to a store and you hear a toddler, you know, having a tantrum, I said, my kids will never do that.
Obviously.
And that was like, whoa, you can't control them as much as you perceive that you can. So that was a big wake up call for me. Like, you know, you can talk to them till you're blue in the face and it doesn't always, you know, click with them. So my experience in stores wasn't like I thought they would be. My other thing was I was 23 when I had Landon and none of my friends were even married at the time. And so it was a very lonely time. Like I had to go to the library and to kind of have friends then. And I was so young, I really wasn't even sure how to make new friends. I know that sounds silly, but like I just didn't. I just thought, wow, this is what I wanted to do. What
was I thinking?
And so, I mean, it as I've grown older, I've figured out different ways you can make friends with moms in your same area of life, same kids. I mean, kids the same age. And so you just never know what it's going to be until you're in it. So thought my kids were going to be perfect, and they're pretty good kids, but I will say they're far from perfect.
They are great kids. And in fact, they love to help out with Leighton and Finn and keep them entertained. And we're just very, very thankful for the whole Neves family. And even though you don't think your kids are perfect, no kids are. And you're raising some pretty great ones. Let me tell you that. All of you are. All of you are. Elise, let us know what you think about this next question that we have for everybody. Today, we all know that parenting and motherhood in particular looks so different for everyone. Single, divorce, blended families, newborn stages, older kids, empty nesters, and college students. How do you feel like your friend group has modeled supporting each other with different perspectives and different experiences as mothers, and maybe or your family, and have they done it well? What things do you almost feel like we could do to bridge the gap better? I just think that's such a struggle for women right now.
100%. I actually wonder if this question was specifically targeted for me, because I think I probably have the most differing views on the panel. I would say that I am at an age now, 39, last year in my 30s, that I realize that those differing views bring a depth. So as far as being with people and spending my time with people that have different views, I think that with time, you quickly realize that as long as you're surrounding yourself by people that always lead with love and respect, you can set those boundaries where you need to, but you can also challenge each other. And so I think that my friend group at every stage of my life, it evolves. And as my perspectives and my own views on things evolve, sometimes that means some of the friends I don't want to say make the cut, but they don't always continue to grow. But what I have found is that without that friend group, regardless of, I started as a single mom, but I've always had a great support system. And my mom supported me through everything. She would drive across state lines when Noah was sick because I didn't have any other options, right? And then I had Matt, who joined my life very early on, but we didn't get married till Noah was 5. He's always been there. But then I had this friend group, even when I lived in Louisiana, that they were who helped keep Noah. I had the equivalent of a Lindsay for you, of my friend Kristen, who would be the first to dive in. She had a full-time job. She still wanted to help. I had friends who gave us a place to stay when my company was having layoffs and we were scared to buy a house. Those friends were the game changer for my survival. Now, as I'm older, I would say that I might have my feet under me in a different way and need them for survival differently. But those friendships are core to my mental health. They're core to what my heart needs. And I would say that having differing views, which I think was an important part of that I picked out of that question, is that actually helps me be a better person. I don't want to surround myself by people that think exactly the same way I do always, because I want to be challenged. I want to grow. And I love that, the depth of my friendship with you in particular, Heather, I think in some ways comes from having some different views, because we always love and respect each other. And you always soften my heart and show me what it means to be open and loving. So
I'm like, well, dang, girl, I'm going to start crying. That's very nice.
Well, and Lindsay, I didn't give her a choice but to be my friend. She said, how you don't know where you're going to meet people. We were co-room moms together in 2nd grade and quickly discovered that while we didn't know how to make friends as adults and all of that, our hearts were meant to meet each other. I think that with my entire being, our similar stories, even though different states, different, entire backgrounds, it's just so many similarities that meant that we were destined to find each other and just to learn and love each other.
So sweet. And I love how intentional Elise is with her friendships. And I think you're so right that there's definitely, and we always hear the age-old adage that friendships are meant for a season, and that people are brought in and out of your life for those seasons. And I think sometimes it's really painful to let those go, but also knowing that as long as, you are doing a good job of, like you said, bettering yourself, being humble, looking to serve other people, but also realizing sometimes that closeness can't stay the same because you're both growing, differently as people. And that's also okay, but hard. Doesn't make it any less hard.
No. And honestly, I won't say I've always done it well, right? I think I've learned over time how to do even that with love and grace. And that's by messing up some along the way, but really choosing. My time's limited. I work really long weeks. I have a husband and son who come first. And so then to choose intentionally who else I want to pour that time and energy into, it has to be someone that continues to bring me joy and makes me a better person.
I love that answer. Okay, Katie, I'm going to call on you next, friend.
Awesome. Okay. I have several friend groups like you, Heather, and Elise, I will say, I love how you touched on that, people are brought into your life for different seasons. And I think back to my college friends, my high school friends who I know are still there and would drop everything if I needed them, but who just aren't there in the day to day. I truly believe that the Lord brought my very best friend, Janelle, to me, like at a time where I really needed her. And we had our babies at the same times. And we have grown over the last 12 years, or I guess 11 years now. And then out of nowhere, he has introduced this amazing friend group in the last 2-3 years with Heather and our core group, and how we just daily are talking and in each other's lives and are with each other through the hard. And it was one of those, and Heather, you've mentioned this before, one of those experiences where I wasn't looking for another friend group, but the Lord just placed y'all in my life right in the absolute right time. And I love the different things that we all bring to the table and our different personalities. And that, Andrea has older kids. Megan has older kids and different experiences and different personalities. And it's just, we all feed from each other and feed off of each other and learn from each other so well. And our different Enneagram types.
Yes. I've made Lindsay and Elise both take the Enneagram. I'm like, everybody that knows me needs to take the Enneagram.
One thing that I'm really thankful for is that, I have that core group, but I also have my mama friends that are at school pickup that I can count on to help me with my kids during the day. I have my wiffle ball friends that I have a wiffle ball league that I play on that I know that they would also help me out. So it's just really cool how in life through different stages, God just puts exactly who you need in your life at that time.
He truly does. That's awesome. So Lindsay, do you mind chiming in on that a little bit? It made me think about how you initially mentioned, I didn't know how to find friends. What did that journey look like for you? Because now I'm like, you go anywhere with Lindsay and somebody's going to know her. She 100% is everybody from the school knows her. You can't go. And I feel actually kind of that way about all of you. Depending on the scenario, you have all been somewhere with me where someone has run into you and known you. So Lindsay, fill us in on how you went from being okay, I'm a new mom. I don't know what to do with this. And now how do I build a friend group?
So you're right about that. Everywhere I go, I do find somebody to talk to. We tried to just go to Disney on Ice the other night. And so it was every 10 steps we took, somebody would stop and talk. And she'd be like, Mom, you know everybody. And then she'd have to stand there while I talk to them. But anyways, I went from being a lonely, super young mom, or what I thought was pretty young, to where I am now. I am 40. And I feel like that is mostly from just the things that I got involved in. I became the room mom, and that's how I met my bestie. So she told you that story, and it just happened. I wasn't looking, I wasn't saying, oh, let me be a room mom so I can make friends. It just so happened. And that's actually, the only one that I've met through being a room mom. But I've also joined the gym, and that's a big thing. There are so many women there that will hold you accountable and be your friend. I will say that I have a whole lot of people that I know that I call friends, but I don't have a whole lot of people that are best friends that I would, tell my soul to. And that's okay. I feel like that's better, as in I know which select people that I could call if in a wrong situation, would be there for me no matter what.
So I think that what you guys all just heard from each woman here in the group is the support system is so very, very vital, especially for your mental health. And Elise, I do feel like one of the things that I really appreciate about you is how open you are about talking about mental health and struggles. And I mean, for those who don't know, Elise has lost 2 parents in the past 6 months. She has really walked a hard journey. Do you mind talking a little bit about what that's looked like and how your support system has helped?
Yeah, I'm admitting that I may not answer this one without crying, but that's also part of my own growth, right? So if you knew me over the last 10 years, you'd say that I always am smiling and that I love approaching life with warmth and kindness. And most people think I'm a true extrovert. False. I am probably more of an introverted extrovert. I'd get exhausted by it. And I often overextend myself. I also deal with depression. And so I had a few episodes during my teen years that I don't think that anyone in my life knew what to call it and how to help me through it. I grew up in a very rural area that didn't have access to specialists. And I know that once my mom drove me over 2 hours to see a therapist to help me through some of it. And so I did grow up with a divorced family. And like Heather mentioned, I lost both of my parents in the last year. Both rocked me in different ways. ways and definitely brought my depression back. But I've spent the last few years figuring out how to manage it. I've done antidepressants. I've done all the therapy. I know the impact. I know the signs. It's just one of those things that I've dealt with my entire life. And I think I spent years thinking that was a weakness. I spent years thinking that you don't talk about it, you hide it. And as such, those closest to me don't often know when I'm struggling. I do a really good job of hiding it. So I think I'm one of those people that definitely has been intentional as I've gotten more comfortable with it to make sure I say those words. I struggle with depression because it's okay. And if nothing else, I think that we should be talking about it. I know that early in our friendship, I had a pretty bad bout, and Lindsay later would say, hey, I need you to tell me if you're not okay, because I think she hated that she didn't know. Like, she was one of my closest people and she didn't know how bad I was struggling. And that's on me, right? Like, I didn't make it a point to let people see. I spent all of my energy hiding it. And I think that happens really often when people struggle with depression. We think we have to put this best foot forward and can't be real with each other. And I think that, millions of women struggle with depression, whether it's, a chronic thing like mine or postpartum that's for a season and specific to what's happening in your life. There's situational depression. I mean, technically, if I'd never had depression before, it would have been normal for me to be depressed when my mom was on life support for a month, right? Like, that would have been normal.
Just slightly.
But I think we women need to be careful to, I like your word, to be intentional, because I think that normalizing it for myself has been my greatest source of getting better. Being okay to tell people that, hey, like, I'm not 100% myself right now, but I'm okay. Like, you don't have to worry. I'm not 100% myself and I'm doing the right things. I'm moving. I have to move, and I have to talk to my therapist. I have to talk through some of the things when they're happening. So yeah, I don't know what other questions you might have about depression, but I'm an open book.
Yes, for sure. And I was going to say, Lindsay and Kati, if y'all have specific questions that come to mind, feel free to ask them. But I would say that, Elise, I think it's been really refreshing to watch you go through depression and be open about it, because you're right. It is the natural tendency to sweep it under the rug. And one thing that I talked several times about, that I'm going through this grief book, and it talks a lot about how essentially, like, if you let grief just keep building and you keep pretending like it's okay, you keep sweeping it under the rug, like, truly at some point when that final death or sickness or loss of a friend that just like sends you spiraling, they're all going to come crashing down one on top of the other. So being willing to address it and get help for it. And like you said, moving, it's like, it doesn't even mean that you have to necessarily like immediately go to medicine. Talk to someone, find a support system, get active. Is there anything else that you would say that's been really key in your journey other than mention the therapist, but you said that?
I think that my first step in staying healthy now has been being willing. I feel like I'm a burden when I'm struggling, right? And I have to know that people love me and want to help me. I am a helper on the Enneagram, and that means that I struggle allowing others to help me. And so I luckily am also a challenger and have a few other very strong second and tertiary ones in play there that help me acknowledge those things. So my husband and my best friends, I hit it in my first bout, and that was the worst bout, right? I didn't keep moving. I was laying in bed like, it was bad. And that meant it did take medicine. I quit my job. I changed jobs. Like, it was like, hey, I have to stop life and focus on myself for a minute. And as someone who has worked since I was 14, that was like, what the crap is happening? But I would say letting people in is the biggest thing, and knowing that you are not alone in it. Millions of women struggle with depression. We're much more likely to get depression than men. And that is because we're also amazing at feeling things and helping others and taking on more than we should. Like, those are not weaknesses, and letting people in is the biggest thing of just not trying to do it myself.
100%. I agree. And I think that one book that I read, I'm trying to remember which one it was, but it talked about how like truly isolation is the worst place that you can be, because that's where like Satan has control of your thoughts, the anxiety takes over, and it just spirals and spirals. And there's no one there to even remind you to help pull you out of that pit. And it's devastating and it's awful. Elise, thank you so much for being willing to share about that. It means a lot to me. And then Kati, I'm going to turn it over to you a little bit, because I would love to hear a little bit about the struggles and also the blessing that you've had with Shep and your family, and just some of the maybe mental hurdles that you've had to walk through in motherhood. Do you mind opening up a little bit about those with us?
Absolutely. So I have found over the past 6 years with just the difficult pregnancy with Shep and learning about his CP, I've just got to give myself grace daily. I can't do it all, which is, I'm also a helper, Elise. And so I was put in many situations where I had to accept help. And I was so thankful for the help that we were given at the different times that we were in the hospital and how people just loved on our family so well. And so as far as I guess my mental health journey, like I said, when we were in the hospital with Shep, I really had this unexplainable peace through it. But when we got home, that is when all of the just emotions hit. So it hit me later on. I was so strong and, to get through all those hard times. And so I was very thankful I still had a strong support system. And, we thought things were fine with Shep. We were very thankful that everything seemed to be good after having him and going through all that trauma. Then when he was diagnosed with CP, after, at 8 months old, we were just like, okay. So we can either take this as okay, I'm going to be sad about this, or I'm going to light a fire and figure out how we can make this the best for him. Like we were told he would never walk. We were told so many different things. And, we were just like, okay, God, just like it was when I was pregnant, there's only so much I can do. And just let you take the rest. And so, in hindsight, looking now at he's walking, he's running, he's playing baseball, he's golfing.
It's incredible. It's Kati and Shep have even been featured on the news because he is just such a vivacious little firecracker. And I think he does have such a spirit in him. And it's he has to have that fighter spirit. And Kati does such a good job of nurturing that. Do you mind even talking with some of the other mamas that might have kids with similar diagnosis? Where did you turn to for advice? What did you look for with the physical things that you knew you were going to have to deal with?
Luckily, here in Birmingham, we have so many, resources. United Ability here in Birmingham is with our biggest resource. We went straight there once we had the diagnosis and was able to get therapy. They were able to do all the therapy for me while, I was able to work. And I could easily go and get him from daycare there because they have a daycare as part of their hand-in-hand United Ability program. So I was able to go and pick him up from school and take him right over to the clinic for therapy and for doctor's visits. And so that's been a huge blessing in itself that it's so convenient for us. But as far as his different therapy, he's had therapy since he was 8 months old. He usually gets, the sooner, if you notice anything, one of the biggest things I want to encourage mamas on is that if you notice something that seems off, advocate. Get out there. If your doctor is saying, I just really don't know, ask all the questions until you get an answer, just to know for sure that you are not just, making something, or what's the word I'm looking for? I guess I need to restart, Heather. But I've had so many experiences though, and doctors are awesome, but they are human. They're going to make mistakes sometimes, or they're not going to catch everything. And so big advice for mamas, advocate. If you see something's wrong or something's off, ask about it. And then with the physical therapy and occupational therapy, he still receives that today. We, as part of his journey, have always said, okay, whatever we can do to help him be able to do what he wants to do. We're thankful for what he can do now and what he's going to do later. But I guess as part of the journey, we didn't realize, spinal surgery would be part of that journey. He had a rhizotomy when he was 3 and they went into his spine and were able to release some of those nerves so that he could walk a little easier. And he had to go through major intensives with physical therapy, after that. And that is really draining.
I can only imagine. So unbelievably draining in every capacity as a mom, that emotional and wherewithal that took. I'm sure that was insane.
He had to completely learn. He had started walking when he was 2 on his own. Not well. That's one of the reasons I started Burn Boot Camp 3 years ago, Heather, is because I was physically just hurting my back trying to help him walk all the time. But help, because we end up being physical therapists as parents. They teach us what to do and we bring it home. And so, but, after the surgery, he had to basically learn how to walk again. And he never had to use his walker. He used to have a gait trainer. Several people have come into his life who also have mild cerebral palsy and very similar to his. He has a new doctor who also has cerebral palsy. He also, his golf instructor has cerebral palsy. And so he has really great role models to look up to and to ask questions to. I have learned so much about kind of what to expect. He's most likely going to be having another surgery coming up when he's 8 or 9. So we're going to have to just gear up for that. And,
But you're doing amazing. And I know that y'all will tackle it because you do a great job of surrounding yourself with community and advocating. And I really am just so proud of you because I know that it's obviously a lot. And you're not even mentioning the day-to-day stuff. So it's a lot.
For any moms who have children who have cerebral palsy or any other disabilities, I'm happy to chat about any questions or any resources that we've used. So, and I'm always open to help in any way I can. It's a journey for sure.
I'll make sure to put Katie's Instagram handle in the notes for anybody that wants to utilize her as a resource too. And then Lindsay, I did want to ask you too, because Katie touched so much on like community and advocating and then the mental load, everything that she dealt with. And Lindsay, I do feel like you have been through lots of different like grief and hardships in your life. I loved how Elise and Katie got to give encouragement to moms about what they've been through. Do you mind even like saying to women, like part of your story and like what your mental health journey has looked like through the things that you've dealt with in your life?
Yes, I'd like to circle back though on the asking for help. I'm a 2 also. Thanks, Heather. And I know it's very hard to ask for help because when you ask for help, you feel like you have failed in that part of your life and you feel like I should be able to do it. I'm their mom. I should, know all the things to do. And it is so hard to ask for help. For me anyways. And so I feel like if you just try and let that guard down a little bit and ask a friend, and you know what, if they don't come through, that might not have been the right friend. So ask another friend. So
true.
I definitely didn't want any moms to, have the mom guilt of, I can't do it all on my own. You want to be the perfect parent. Everybody does. And it's just hard to feel like you failed when you ask for help. I've asked for help a lot lately regarding college because I did not go to college. And so I have no idea what I'm doing to help my son, and so I want him to make good choices. I want it to be his choice. I just, between applying for scholarships, applying for different colleges, doing college tours. I mean, I probably wouldn't have even jumped on the bus except for Elise. She emailed me. She's like, hey, we're going to do these 2 college tours. And I was like, what? And so she let us tag along. And so Noah and Landon did get to go to UAB and look at college a couple weeks ago. And that was fun, but it just seems so overwhelming. So I am past the point of not asking for help. I'm definitely needing all the help in the college department, especially just because it's a year away. But my journey has been hard in the family, I guess, life, because my mom and dad were separated forever ago. Probably when I was 4 is when they divorced, and my dad stayed in Texas. My mom moved us to Florida. So it's just me and my brother and my mom. She worked full time. And so we would come home after school and do, things by ourselves. Like even in elementary school, I remember coming home. Thankfully, we lived across the street from the elementary school. We'd walk home. I'd like make my brother a snack or do whatever, get your homework done all by yourself, like
mini mama. You literally were a mini mama.
I was. Started at a young age. And just, I didn't have my dad around. And I used to, wonder what I did wrong to have him not want to be with me because he was there for the first 4 years. And it's how do you get to know a child and then just leave them? So I've always, wondered. I know now it was in nothing I did. It was probably what my mom did. But anyways, I still can't wrap my head around not being in a relationship with your child, especially if you started with a relationship with your child. So I still, wonder what happened there. And that probably helped mold my motherhood. That's why I wanted to be that perfect mom. I want to do everything for my kids. And it's a really fine line of giving them everything and then also making them spoiled. Like it is such a fine line. Like you want them to have the best of everything, but you also don't want them to become entitled or feel like they deserve everything because, they've grown up with it. That's a struggle as a mom.
You can't see us, but all 3 of us are nodding our head vehemently like, yes, it's so hard to walk that line. It really is.
It really is. I mean, I have Shiloh who, she wants all the Lululemon and the name brand clothes and she, just can't have them all. I do buy her some, but then I feel like the more I get her, the more she feels like she deserves them or needs it. And so, and I know that's not true. Same thing with Landon. I mean, it's just the things that we give them because we want the best for our kids. I don't think we have any bad intentions there. It's just what, there's no manual. What am I doing to my child by, washing their clothes all the time and not making them, do very much around the house because they're kids. My mentality, I try to see both sides. I'm like, well, they're kids. So, soon enough, they're going to be adults and they're going to have to do all this stuff for themselves. But then they also don't learn any, responsibility if you do everything for them. So it's just so hard to be a mom and, you do what your gut and your mind tell you and you'll be fine.
That's so true. And then, Lindsay, you mentioned a little bit about working through what that looks like when your dad left and stuff. And I think that that's such a valid point to make. What would you encourage other moms that are maybe like from a family of divorce and they still are kind of struggling with those kind of questions? I think that that's valid and worth addressing. How do you feel like you've kind of come to peace with that? And also just with like, do you mind sharing a little bit about your brother too? You don't have to if you don't want to.
I don't mind. My brother didn't ever have our dad around. And so I kind of equate his decisions in life as maybe not having that father figure around. He in high school got involved with friends that were into drugs and, sneaking out and doing, bad things. And so he got hooked on drugs. He dropped out of school. In his 20s, he did start the Jimmy Hill mission, which was amazing for him. He got clean. He was living there for probably a year. He passed all his classes for Jimmy Hill. He did all the things he needed to do. So you get on that roller coaster and you're like, great, he's getting better and you beat this, addiction thing. And then he would always fall back into that. He would get out and then he'd make a bad decision and he might go to jail. And then in jail, you can still have access to drugs. He might start those again. He had a girlfriend that would always, take him out of jail and then also give him drugs and beer and things like that. And so she was always bad decision for him. He did live with me for about a year when my kids were little. I took him back and forth to work because he didn't have a car. He seemed to be doing well. I could tell he was depressed because he didn't have any friends because all his friends were bad and I was keeping him away from them. So my house became he called it like prison. He called my house prison.
The real prison.
I wouldn't let him go anywhere. He didn't have a car to go anywhere. And thankfully, we lived far enough away from this friend group that he didn't have a quick access to someone just to come pick me up. He did get better then. And then he was working and the girlfriend just found out where he was working and she started coming up there and they started, doing drugs again. He got fired. He went back to jail and he just spiraled back down. The girlfriend got him out of jail that particular time. So my brother was 30 at this point. He had turned 30 in May, and this was November of the same year. So she got him out of jail and then took him back to her grandma's house where she lived with her grandma, and he OD'd. And I don't know if that was, I don't think he did it, but he just took too much. So he died of an overdose in his girlfriend's bed. And that obviously has been the worst thing that's ever happened in my life. I'm a pretty strong person and I don't cry in front of people, so I'm not going to cry. But that's the hardest thing. And I do love that my children were front seat to all of this. They were young when he lived with me, but then they were old enough to kind of understand that Uncle Tony was in jail and then Uncle Tony was making bad decisions. And then as my kids got older, they realized it was because of drugs and bad decisions. So they have seen that. They know why he died. And so I feel like that has helped guide my children into what they don't want to do as they get older.
Yeah. Lindsay always does such a good job of like looking on the bright side of things. And I just think that it's such a true testament to like who you are as a person and you helper. In fact, I'm like, all three of these women they're like incredible, amazing women that have been through really hard things in life in all different sectors. And so, Lindsay, I know it's hard for you to share that. And I really appreciate you being willing to do so. And Elise, I know it was very vulnerable for you to share about depression. And KK, it was so nice of you to allow us to get an inside glimpse. I know that we are running out of time. So I'm just going to ask for each of you to just share if there's anything you wanted to share and you didn't have a chance to. Elise, if you want to say anything to a single mom, or Katie, you want to say anything to a mom that's struggling with their friendships, or Lindsay, someone that you feel like they've been through a similar life situation as you, like things that have helped you come through on the other side, what that might look like. And Elise, I'll start with you, friend.
I would mostly say that you're stronger than you think, but you don't have to find all the strength in yourself. And it's also okay to be a roller coaster. I often compare myself to other women, and my fitness journey has been all over the place. I have been addicted to working out and completely feeding off of it, and then not work out at all for 2 years, and then finding a healthy balance. It's okay. It is truly okay to be a roller coaster. And most women, whether their social media presents this picture or not, are also a roller coaster in some way. If you're struggling, I plead with you to talk to someone. It doesn't have to be a professional, but you need to talk to someone, because most of us have had some experience with that. I don't want any of you to be going it alone, and I don't want us to lose anyone else to depression.
Amen. And I think, Elise, too, you have to put yourself in the place of your friendships. Like if someone came to you and opened up about depression, it's not like you'd be like, well, that's weird. We're not going to be friends anymore. No one's going to think like that. Those are lies that internally we tell ourselves. So thank you for that encouragement. I really appreciate it, Elise. And thank you for being here today. KK, do you want to take it next? Anything that you want to say?
Elise, I'm going to kind of tag off what you just said about roller coaster. I feel that way all the time, every day. Many times I feel like I'm winning at some things and failing at others. There's never this balance of just being good. And I can't, and it was a big struggle for me when I couldn't just do everything well. I like to be good at things. And when I'm doing something really well, something else is going to fall. I'm not going to be doing the other thing well. When I'm succeeding at work, I'm not going to be able to spend as much time with my kids as I want to. And so it's just finding that balance act. It's doable. Ask if you know something that might be helpful for your family. Ask those questions to your employer. Talk with your husband. Figure out what's going to work best for your family and you. Another thing, and I alluded to this earlier, just give yourself grace. We can't do it all. And I have to constantly remind myself of that. I've also had to constantly remind myself it's okay to say no to things and to find your best yes for that day. If you have several different things going on, what's going to be that best yes for our family? And some other things. Oh goodness, I can go on and on. But one of the big, and I did say earlier about advocating, because there are several things that happened with my first child that I wish I would have advocated harder on. But I think that prepared me for everything I would have to advocate for with Shep. And I didn't want, just having to make sure his braces get done on time so that he has his AFO braces, and the doctor's appointments don't get missed because they didn't ever, the schedulers didn't schedule those or forgot to, and just little things like that. Just advocate. Another thing, I'm still learning to parent every single day. And that's another part of giving us grace. Like I struggle with just pride and wondering, well, I really thought my kid would want to do this. And why isn't he doing this? And I just have to let them be them. And, that's something that, my husband and I have both struggled with our first child. We thought, oh, he's going to be great at baseball. And he loves tennis. He loves to sing. And just being there with them through their likes, instead of making that all about you, be there for them with what they want to do. That's been something that I'm still learning as a parent, working with my children about jealousy. Jet gets very jealous of Shep, and just making sure we're spending that one-on-one time with each of them and making each of them feel very loved, and to help each other, help them understand each other. That's, some of the different struggles that we deal with. And I'm just very thankful that you had me on here today, Heather. And I've loved hearing from Elise and from Lindsay today. I've pulled so much from them and their hearts today as well. So
yes. And Elise just commented down in the box and said that she definitely agreed with that comment about, loving the kid that you have. That's the best advice, and echo that. It's such an interesting dynamic because you think your kid is going to be just like you or just like your husband. And yeah, it definitely is a little bit of a struggle there. And Katie, thank you so much for being willing to give your precious time, because you're right there. Lindsay watches me ride my roller coaster every single day. In fact, yesterday she was helping me put up a Christmas tree. Like Lindsay literally watches me drop balls left and right all the time, but I try to make sure that the balls I'm dropping are the plastic ones on that day. And some days your plastic balls might be the glass balls, but you almost have to, like you said, do this balancing act of figuring that out in motherhood. So Lindsay, do you mind sharing your last piece of advice or anything you'd want to share with the audience before we wrap up here?
Yeah, I like to look at mom memes on Facebook or wherever. And I really like the memes where it's like, you can either have a clean house or kids that look presentable and not both on the same day.
So true. So true.
Those always make me laugh just because it's so true. Like you can't, like Katie said, you cannot do it all. You either feel like all of my laundry is done. Oh, but I didn't think about dinner. There's always something. Like you have something and then you don't have another. But you know what? We're all making it. I wanted to bring up Elise again because she always tells me, have you talked to someone? And I'm like, I don't need to talk to any. You are my therapist. Like if she is that but she still is, recommends talking to a professional, but I feel like she's pretty professional.
She's very close.
So she will always ask you, have you talked to anyone? And then I always giggle. I'm like, I am right now.
Yep. Sunscreen and therapy. 2 recommendations.
Elise is all over those 2. Yep.
Thank you for having me too. I was very, nervous to be on here and talk to you guys. That's the one thing I wanted to be in life ever is a mom. And so it's very important to me that we all, try to keep ourselves healthy so we can be the best moms.
Amen. I'm like, Lindsay, that is such a good closing statement. I'm like, you're the one that was nervous. You did so great. So you crushed that. You did amazing. Well, I so appreciate Elise, Kati, and Lindsay all joining us here today on Healthy with Heather Brown. I honestly cannot tell you how grateful I am for each of their friendships in such special and different ways. Elise mentioned and alluded to the fact that we definitely probably see most different points of view in life. And what I value so much about her is that she loves me anyway. I know she would drop anything for me at the drop of a hat, and I would do the same for her. And I think that she and Matt and Eric and I complement each other very well in a couple relationship because all of us are willing to know when the conversation has gotten to the point where it's not productive anymore in the effort to protect a friendship. And also that we love each other truly pretty much unconditionally. They are just amazing. And I can't say enough good things about Elise and the value that she has brought to my life for the past 7+ years. She's walked with me through latent postpartum depression, the 4th degree tear. And then Kati Maddox is truly one of the most genuinely sweet people you will ever meet in your entire life. But don't let that fool you because she's not afraid to fuel you with a little fire too. She's going to tell you if you're in the wrong, which I love. Like everybody needs friendships that are different, helpful, and intuitive. And Kati is someone that I feel like the Lord brought back into my life in this season. And I'm so very grateful for that. It really is cool to watch how she has parented so well, but also worked on balancing working from home, used to be in an office, all those transitions. And I hope that every single mother here feels very seen, no matter who you identify with the most. And then obviously Lindsay is basically like a second mom to my kids. She's truly like a sister to me. She is one of my very best friends, dearest friends. I drug her into Burn kicking and screaming, but I'm so glad she came with me because now she gets to hang out with me there all the time. And if you ever need like a girl who will just, truly pray for you through anything, do anything for you, it's Lindsay. And I think that Lindsay and I have had to work really hard on figuring out like her healthy boundaries and my healthy boundaries because she is such a giver and such a helper. And so I'd highly encourage you to think about some of the points that these women brought up today and think about how you can reflect those in your friendships well and your parenting well and loving the Lord well, and then taking care of your physical health so you can best pour into your mental health as well. It is so vital. It is so crucial. I just am truly honored that each of you joined me today. I'm actually starting to get a little bit tearful thinking about each of their friendships. So I'm going to close it here. Y'all have a wonderful day and text one of your besties and tell them how much they mean to you because this has just been so heart fulfilling for me to have each of them here. Y'all have a beautiful day. Bye. One of the most popular questions I hear is, how do you do it all? Or can I pick your brain? And I always laugh because my knee-jerk reaction is, oh girl, I don't do it all. And now I have a way to let you pick my brain about my business. I have an incredible team of women helping me manage my crazy behind the scenes and keeping My Life Well Loved and this podcast running smoothly. Because Lord knows I'd be a hot mess express trying to do it all myself. This year, I launched a course where I finally do a deep dive and share all the raw details about how I built my business and team to where it is today. My COO, Alyssa, and I recorded over 2 hours of video into 9 lessons to create a course that reviewers are saying is unlike anything else out there. Hey, their words, not mine. But hold on, the videos aren't all. I'm going to read you my list of what it includes so I don't forget any of it. There's a 28-page workbook with questions to move you from stuck as a solopreneur to thriving as a team, or even just hiring your first assistant, with smart goals and steps to guide you from point A to point B efficiently. A behind-the-scenes look at our application, hiring process, and critical onboarding process, my can't-miss first step in hiring a new employee, and how to cultivate a team buy-in. There's a deep dive on my team's inner workings, our operating systems, favorite apps, and index full of time-saving tools we use to keep our team running smoothly. If you're ready to take your business, side hustle, or network marketing lifestyle to the next level and grow a team, I'm your girl. Head to www.mylifewellloved.com/team to grab yours today. Hey, if you're loving the show, click that follow button on your podcast app. This will ensure you won't miss a single episode. I'll see you next time.